Good morning. Good morning. Good morning and welcome. My name is John Rhodes, and I am President and CEO of the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, and here today in my role as Chair of the State Energy Planning Board. I'd like to introduce to you the other representatives of the Planning Board that are here today. Jim Bays, First Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Agricultural Markets, and Mike Snyder, Policy Analyst of the Department of State. We expect to be joined by Jared Snyder, the Assistant Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Conservation. This is a hearing to accept public comments on the 2014 draft State Energy Plan that was approved by the State Energy Planning Board on January 7th, 2014, and made available on the Energy Plan website, energyplan.ny.gov. The plan was issued in accordance with Article 6 of the Energy Law. Public notice of the issuance of the plan and notice of this public hearing were published in the State Register on January 29th. The draft State Energy Plan is the result of many months of serious and thoughtful work and envisions an energy system for New York State that is clean, flexible, affordable, resilient, and reliable. It states the initiatives to achieve that vision that focus on 5 areas: improving energy affordability, unleashing the power of private sector financing, providing a more resilient and flexible power grid, giving customers more control over their energy use, and aligning energy innovation with market demand. And accordingly, the plan outlines some long-term policy goals, near-term action items that lead towards those, and meaningful metrics along the way. The draft plan consists of 2 volumes. The first volume provides 15 key initiatives to advance the state's energy future. The second volume addresses energy uses, its sources and impacts, and provides detailed background that was used to develop the overarching vision and initiatives in the first volume. This is the last of 6 public hearing sessions that were planned to receive public comments. And let me just pause here to do some housekeeping, if I may. The exits are signed as we're used to. The bathrooms are out this door to the left and down past the serving counter. Rules for this session. The only hard rule is no signs on sticks or poles. Otherwise, if you have signs, please feel free to express your views with those. We would ask as a courtesy that you do not obstruct the views of others behind you. In general, if you have sentiments toward a speaker, I ask you to keep those within bounds. Please express yourselves. I will notice that in prior hearings there has been supportive clapping, etc., in the middle of a speaker's comments that have actually distracted that speaker. It's up to you what to do, but it might be courteous to wait until the speaker is done and then express your support, but it's up to you. Those are our ground rules. We're guests of ESF, of course, and it would be nice if we stayed within bounds of decorum. That's actually been how these have all gone. They've been orderly and passionate, and that's exactly as it should be. Written comments, besides the oral comments that will be given today, on the draft plan will also be accepted through April 30, and information on submitting those written comments can be found on the Energy Plan website. If you decide to submit written comments, please do so as soon as possible so that they can be carefully considered. All public comments, whether oral or written, will be considered by the Energy Planning Board as it works towards issuance of the final energy plan. All comments count equally, regardless of how they were received, written or at sessions like this. The Planning Board is targeting issuance of the final plan in the spring of 2014. The process today is simple. Those who wish to comment at this hearing have been asked to sign in upon arrival. Your name will be called one at a time to speak. When your name is called, please come to the podium to provide your statement. I will make a practice of when I announce name, also announcing the name of the following speaker beyond that person. A court reporter is here to provide a transcript to the planning board of everything that is said today. It is very important that there be only one speaker at a time so that the reporter can hear clearly. Speakers should address their comments in the direction of the microphone, and please make an effort to speak clearly and slowly. It is also very important that those in attendance be courteous to the speaker so that his or her comments can be transcribed accurately by the court reporter. If you provide a statement and have a written version with you, it would be helpful if you could provide that to us either today or following the hearing so that we can provide those to the court reporter to assist in providing the transcript. All speakers are asked to focus on issues that pertain to the draft energy plan only. Your comments should be as succinct as possible so that we can hear from as many of you as possible. We have set a 5-minute deadline for that purpose, but of course, after everyone has had a chance to address the board, repeat speakers may be afforded another 5 minutes should hearing time permit. Formal presentations such as PowerPoint are not being allowed today. Again, our goal is to hear from as many of you as possible. As this is a statement hearing, the planning board is not entertaining questions. This is an opportunity for us to receive feedback and hear from you on the draft plan. Those who want to comment but do not want to speak public, again, can submit written comments via our website. And again, that is energyplan.ny.gov. With that, I will note that we've been joined by Jared Snyder, Assistant Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Conservation. I want to thank you all for coming today and just ask if there are any questions about the process for the session that I can answer at this time. Seeing none, I will call our first speaker, Lawrence Paul, to be followed by Sarah Eckel.
Thank you very much for having me speak today. I appreciate it. I wish to highlight a major flaw in the draft 2014 New York State Energy Plan. This document fails to seriously address the paramount issue of climate change and the global warming crisis. Instead of providing a path for achieving greenhouse reduction goals and this plan actually promotes an expansion of the natural gas production and consumption, as well as construction of additional natural gas pipelines and other gas infrastructure that will encourage fracking in other states and possibly here in New York State. This will also increase the level of carbon dioxide and methane emissions for decades to come. This is the complete opposite direction that we need to go. This plan will cause a significant increase in the release of methane gas into our atmosphere by the extraction of natural gas from shale, leakages from pipelines, transport vehicles, and storage area spills. Not to mention the contamination of our water, air, land from the fracking process. Let us also not forget the dangers of liquefied natural gas. 40 years ago, 40 people died in Long Island from an accident from liquefied natural gas. Also, we must remember the recent explosions on our rail systems, and also the terrible tragedy in Quebec. Methane gas is by far the most potent greenhouse gas of any other fossil fuel. It has many times the warming effect of carbon dioxide. We have well surpassed the safe limit zone of 350 parts per million of carbon concentration in the atmosphere. In the spring of 2012, the carbon dioxide levels reached 400 parts per million near the Arctic region. And today, we are at that point now. Also, every year, this increases 2 to 3 parts per million each year. We are getting closer to the tipping point, the point of no return, in which we will be facing irreversible climate change. For more than a decade, we have experienced the direct effects of global warming through extreme weather patterns, rising oceans, melting Arctic sea ice, flooding, tornadoes, hurricanes, droughts, and fires. And it is getting worse. The New York State Energy Plan needs to be a document that provides an aggressive, bold, and innovation plan with a sense of urgency. Urgency that leads us to a significant reduction of emissions in our atmosphere, and by banning fracking, as well as reducing and phasing out fossil fuel energy for non-fossil renewable energy resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's perfect. Thank you. Sarah Eckel to be followed by Linda DiStefano.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Sarah Eckel, and I'm the Legislative and Policy Director for Citizens Campaign for the Environment. CCE is an 80,000-member nonprofit, nonpartisan advocacy organization that works to protect public health.
Slow down. Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay. Go ahead.
Public health and the environment. CCE will offer comprehensive written comments, but today I'd like to highlight our perceived over-reliance of natural gas in the plan. The energy plan says it has a vision for reducing New York's contributions towards climate change. However, throughout the plan, the goals are to move from oil to gas or from nuclear to gas. The plan lays out the expectation that dependence on gas will significantly increase. Gas is not a sustainable future for New York, and increasing its use implies in the face of the work that the state has done to protect public health and the environment. Indeed, the plan acknowledges the public health impacts of oil and coal, but largely ignores those impacts when it comes to gas. The 2012 study on a set of chemicals called non-methane hydrocarbons found that air near drilling sites, even when fracking isn't in progress, more than 50 NMHCs were found near gas wells in rural Colorado, including 35 that affect the brain and nervous system. Some were detected at levels high enough to potentially harm children who are exposed to them before birth. The author said the source of the chemicals is likely a mix of raw gas that is vented from wells and emissions from industrial equipment used during gas production process. This adds to the concern of how air pollution from gas drilling is impacting public health during all stages of gas production and delivery. The study's authors detected 30 NMHCs that affect the endocrine system. Several belong to a class of compounds called PAHs, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. I can never say that without looking. And were detected at levels that other scientists are found high enough to impact child development. Women exposed to certain levels of PAHs are more likely to have children with lower birth rates and lower IQ scores. In 2013, the RAND Corporation released a study discussing air emissions from gas drilling operations in Pennsylvania. The statewide extraction industry produced VOCs and NOx emissions equivalent to are larger than some single emitters. The estimated air quality-related damages range from $7.2 million to $32 million, and further said that 80% of the damages occur in the years after the well is developed, and more than half of the emission damages come from compressor stations. These are just two examples of how gas impacts public health through its dirty air emissions. The evidence keeps mounting against the gas industry's claim that it is a clean fuel. Gas is a dirty fuel, just like coal or oil. Pound for pound, the comparative impact of methane on climate change is over 20 times greater than carbon dioxide over a 100-year period. Globally, over 60% of total methane emissions come from human activities. Methane is emitted from industry, agricultural, and waste management activities. In regards to industry, natural gas and petroleum systems are the largest source of methane emissions in the United States. Methane is the primary component of natural gas. Methane is emitted to the atmosphere during production, processing, storage, transmission, and distribution of natural gas. A recent Stanford University report says that methane leaks from the drilling and production of natural gas negate the climate change benefits of natural gas, specifically in regards to the transportation sector. The study also concludes that there is about 50% more methane in the atmosphere than previously estimated. Additionally, the study recognizes that methane leaks that occur throughout the gas supply chain from drilling to compressor stations to transportation. An increased reliance upon natural gas doesn't advance the state's goal of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. The Union of Concerned Scientists warns against an over-reliance on natural gas in our electricity system. Is the largest contributor to U.S. global warming emissions and currently accounts for a total of the worst consequences of climate change. The U.S. needs to cut power sector carbon emissions by 90% from current levels by 2050. If the U.S. continues on its current path toward a natural gas dominated electricity system, the electricity sector would generate up to 3 times the Council's recommended amount of carbon emissions. Renewable sources generate little to no global warming emissions, and together with improved energy efficiency play an essential role in developing a low-carbon electricity system. To meet the National Research Council's carbon budget for the power sector, the U.S. needs to invest heavily in energy efficiency and increase renewable energy. Touting natural gas as a way to address climate change is like building a bridge to a warming world. And as previously discussed, it does not aid in the goal of reducing public health impacts from fossil fuels. Switching from coal to gas or oil to gas is like switching your cigarette brands. This is not the answer New Yorkers need or deserve. And New Yorkers have the opportunity to move away from dirty fossil fuels and needs to commit to moving away from fossil fuels toward a sustainable energy future. CCE urges New York State to adopt an energy plan that lays out a clear path toward a sustainable future that is reliant upon renewable energy and does not provide incentives or encouragement for any transition that includes ramping up New York's dependence on gas or other fossil fuels. And thank you for the opportunity to comment today.
Thank you very much. To be followed by James Laura.
I have 3 points, and they're all fairly brief. The first one is the plan is much too reliant on natural gas. Given the methane emissions from natural gas, and given that methane is a greenhouse gas even more potent than CO2, this plan will not slow climate change. And our previous 2 speakers elaborated on that in great detail, so I'll go on to my second point, which has to do with nuclear energy. The plan assumes that nuclear energy should continue to be part of the energy mix. Instead, the plan should be looking at how to phase out the state's nuclear facilities as soon as possible, and should put forth decommissioning plans that would minimize the danger to workers and the public as the decommissioning is taking place. The plan does acknowledge that Indian Point may be shut down, but it doesn't deal with the reality of the upstate nuclear reactors. I live about 36 miles from 3 nuclear reactors, and it's a great concern for me. If there were to be a catastrophe there, I don't think there's any efficient way that people are going to be evacuated. At least 2 of the upstate reactors, Fitzpatrick, owned by Entergy, and Ginna, owned by Constellation, are very old and in financial trouble. This was pointed out by a financial analyst organization. In the case of Fitzpatrick, it seems that Entergy is trying to get the last cent out of the plant while not spending on proper maintenance. For example, the Fitzpatrick plant needs a new condenser, but Entergy shows no sign of installing one. The energy plan should include a statement about the overcrowded storage of nuclear waste at the reactors. And let's remember that nuclear waste, some of it is going to be around for hundreds of thousands of years. We have no way of knowing how to keep that away from the environment for that period of time. So we're leaving a horrible legacy to generations to come. The plan should also acknowledge the storage of nuclear waste at a dump at West Valley near Buffalo and the fact that that has been leaking from the containers. The company that started that nuclear dump went bankrupt, left it up to us taxpayers to deal with it. The state government, the federal government for years have been trying to do some cleanup. It is still full of nuclear waste. An energy plan which does not recognize the serious safety, public health, and environmental contamination problems of one of our energy sources, i.e. nuclear, is woefully incomplete. My third and final point is the plan should include a suggestion to fund energy conservation studies and education about energy conservation. Energy efficiency is important, but it's distinct from energy conservation. For example, someone might buy an energy-efficient refrigerator and then decide that they can afford to also buy a freezer because the refrigerator is saving energy. Yet the overall result may be more use of energy. Clever ad campaigns and programs in schools can encourage energy conservation, and studies can help determine the best strategies for motivating people. For example, I heard of a study which found people are motivated to save energy when they perceive that their neighbors are doing so, even more than when they think they're going to be saving money, which was an interesting result of that study. More studies could be done, more education could be done. I know that Onondaga County has been very good at going into the schools and educating about recycling the children. Sometimes the children would come home and educate their parents. That same kind of thing can be done on energy issues.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. James Dwara, to be followed by Keith Shue.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
I want to start out by saying any of my remarks are nothing personal, in case any of you people are involved in that, and or otherwise. All these good, patient people behind me have brought a lot of data, facts, and things that I believe our leaders are already aware of. And I think it's sad that they have to come to these kind of meetings and bring these facts forward as though they were a secret. They're not a secret. This is the root problem. The root problem is business as usual, where a board or a governmental agency will craft something that's absolutely not for the public. Never was and never was intended to be. That's our root problem. It's the old way of doing business. That's why we're here today. We have an energy problem because we continue to do business the old way. The old way is how we got where we are right now. And we can't continue to do that. It doesn't work. So instead of bringing the data and facts, I'd just like to bring the truth. The truth is, we have to change. Our leaders have to change. They have to be responsible and represent the people for change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Keith Shue, to be followed by Alicia Alexander.
Good morning. My name is Keith Shue. I live in Cherry Valley, New York, and I'm here today representing myself as well as the organization Sustainable Otsego. I have a master's degree in engineering, and I worked in the private sector as an electrical engineer for 14 years. I also have been involved in environmental conservation and government relations. I've served on various federal, state, and local advisory boards, and I have been directly involved in the review and writing of plans, policies, and regulations. As your document admits, we are facing a climate crisis. Global warming is now upon us. Arctic ice is melting faster than scientists had even predicted. And we are experiencing extreme and deadly weather patterns like Hurricane Sandy. Addressing this crisis requires an energy plan with teeth. Respectfully, we don't have that here. Volume 1 contains inspiring words from people like Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, Rachel Carson. It also contains bold-sounding initiatives, but they're really only conceptual. Volume 2 contains data, lots of data, some of which is probably accurate and some of which I do believe is questionable. But in reading the document as a whole, I found myself asking, where is Volume 3? Where is Volume 3 that takes some of the visionary concepts of Volume 1, compares it with information in Volume 2, and creates an actual plan for what you're going to do and how you're going to do it? Nowhere in this document is anything said about the actual percentage of energy that will come from different sources. What is the intended target for renewables? And what time frame? You do not have a plan unless you make some decisions about those things, and unless you include some analysis of the facilities that will be needed, what facilities will be phased out, and what other grid improvements you're going to have to make to achieve that. We are concerned that this plan relies much too heavily on passive forecasts made in the absence of planning. Significant advances have been made in wind and solar technology. However, the forecasts in this plan predict almost no growth in renewables. By putting dubious forecasts before planning, you are essentially creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, a vision of the future that's very different from the beautiful photos of wind turbines and solar farms that are in the document. For this plan to have meaning, we believe it must set aggressive numerical targets for renewable energy with 50% of all power generation from renewables by 2025. Going further, the document shall lay out an action plan for continued investments in renewables so that New York State can become fossil fuel free by mid-century. 2050 is also when the promise made in Executive Order Number 24 by Governor Patterson comes due for reducing total greenhouse gas emissions across all sectors by 80%. Although the energy plan mentions that goal, it fails to lay out a strategy for how it's really going to be accomplished. Instead, it invents a substitute interim target for 2030 for reducing one greenhouse gas, which is carbon dioxide. Well, this completely ignores methane, the main ingredient of natural gas, which according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is 33 times worse than carbon dioxide as a driver of climate change over 100 years and 86 times worse over 20 years. And by the way, the next 20 years are absolutely critical. Now is the time when scientists tell us that decisive action must occur to avoid the worst impacts of climate change. We don't have 100 years to solve this problem. Instead of cherry-picking targets that favor the natural gas industry, a credible schedule should be developed with a series of numeric benchmarks at regular intervals for the reduction of total greenhouse gas emissions, including benchmarks within the time frame of this administration, because I think we all know that it's easy to make promises on somebody else's watch. We're also very concerned that this plan places caps on the potential benefits of renewables and efficiency improvements. If NYSERDA is saying that the best we can hope for is for 37% of New York's energy to be met by renewables, and that the most energy we'll be able to save from energy efficiency is only 20%, then frankly you're also basically conceding that your 80% total greenhouse gas reduction goal is impossible. The numbers don't add up. We're deeply concerned that instead of focusing on renewables, this plan sets a course on fossil fuels, especially natural gas. 3 of the plan's initiatives, numbers 6, 8, and 9, explicitly promote conversion to gas and acceleration of gas infrastructure for transmission and distribution. And many of your initiatives ambiguously refer to clean energy without saying what you're actually talking about. Let's make this very clear. Natural gas is not clean. When you perform a life cycle analysis of impacts, meaning how you get gas out of the ground, which is fracking, air and water contamination, disposal of fracking wastewater, and methane leaks that occur in processing, transmission, storage, and distribution, we know that natural gas, when you put all that together, frack gas, is not clean. If Governor Cuomo's Green Bank is going to be used for promoting consumption of fracked gas and building of gas infrastructure, then it's not a green bank. Finally, what this plan says about the possibility of fracking here in New York State is truly puzzling. The section titled New York Production Forecast begins with a statement saying that natural gas production levels are expected to continue dropping. However, this is immediately followed with words in a chart that forecasts them to actually rise. In fact, tripling with the lifting of today's moratorium. So literally, the document kind of contradicts itself all on the same page. Hopefully, Governor Cuomo will make the right decision and not permit fracking in New York. But even if that happens, even if he makes that correct decision, by embracing a plan that welcomes fracked gas from out of state, then we're still polluting the environment, contributing to climate change, and making the problem worse. Just about done. I hope you agree with me that New York can do better, that we must do better. We urge you to put forth a plan with more teeth and less gas, a plan with specific measurable targets and specific meaningful action that will build a sustainable future based not on fossil fuels that will one day be gone, but instead on renewables. That is the only path that will truly lead us to energy independence as a state and as a nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Alicia Alexander, to be followed by Nancy Norton.
Thank you all who have preceded me for your beautiful, well-thought-out comments, and thank you, board and panel, for listening to our concerns. My name is Alicia Alexander, and I am with GRACES, the Grassroots Accommodations Coalition for Energy Sustainability. We are the welcome committee for the world here in New York. We have great food. Yes. We have great water. Yes. We'd like to keep it that way. As an accommodations owner who sees people from pretty much every country around the world, they love to see upstate New York. They love to see our great city. And we'd like to be continually proud of it. We don't want wells, we don't want polluted water. Less than 1% of all the water on this planet, less than 1% of all the water on this planet is drinkable. While much of this globe is experiencing drought and wars vying for water, which New York is so rich in. Great Lakes, Finger Lakes, Catskills, and Adirondacks. We have a very precious, irreplaceable commodity to exchange our precious water for polluted, fracked, and poisoned water does not just border on insane. It is the very definition. This is an irreplaceable commodity needed by every living organism on the planet, not just us. And it is inexcusable to play with that. We have already, due to the great minds and the great energy that have gone into the Stanford report, we have already at least a decent plan. Don't tell me it isn't possible. Iceland, Germany, Spain, Portugal, Denmark. We in America used to be leaders. New York State was the first to hold the World's Fair. We are not leaders anymore, and we need to be. We need to be leaders, and Governor Cuomo needs to step up to the plate, as we all do, and become leaders in a world that's so damaged by greed rather than by cents, dollars rather than by cents. And I ask you all, to think about all the words you're hearing here today and make a decision that works and that is blessed by God.
Thank you very much.